All right, so let's go ahead and take a look at this next example. I didn't realize this was the last example of the identities, but whatever. Okay, so suppose that cosecant x equals 7 and x is in quadrant 2. So let's find sine x over 2, cosine x over 2, and tangent x over 2. So let's start off with drawing this guy. So cosecant. Okay, so one way that we can write cosecant is just 7 over 1. I think that's a little easier to work with. This guy's in quadrant 2, so we're going to draw the triangle up here. So here's x. So the cosecant is going to be, so we got to remember that cosecant is sine, the reciprocal of sine. Sine is opposite over hypotenuse, so this should be hypotenuse over opposite. So this should be a 7 and this should be a 1. So using Pythagorean theorem, you get that a squared plus 1 squared equals 7 squared. So I get 49. So a squared equals 48. So a is going to be equal to plus or minus square root of 48. And I think square root of 48 reduces a little bit more. It reduces to 4 square root of 3. Now notice that in this case, because we're in quadrant 2, the x values are all negative. So it will make sense for this to be negative 4 square root of 3. Okay, so now let's find the sine, the cosine, and the tangent. So we're going to look at sine of x over 2. So let's go ahead and take a look at these formulas because I'm not really great at memorizing stuff. So plus or minus square root, okay, I got that. Okay, so let's go ahead and write that down. So plus or minus square root of 1 minus cosine x divided by 2. Okay, so let's take a look at this guy. So we're going to have plus or minus the square root 1 minus the cosine in this case would be the adjacent over the hypotenuse, which is going to be the negative 4 square root of 3 over 7 divided by 2. I don't think these are squared, I think. I don't think so. No, they're not squared. Okay, perfect. All right, so now this guy is going to be the square root of 1 plus 4 square root of 3 over 7 divided by 2. Okay, so you can reduce this a little bit more if you want to. I'll leave the reduction to you. At least let me reduce at least one of them. So you can make this as 7 over 7. Oops, oh yeah, that's good. 7 over 7 plus 4 square root of 3 over 7 divided by 2. So plus or minus square root. 7 plus 4 square root of 3. That 7 and that 2 will give me a 14. Okay, so I get something like that. All right, you can still further reduce this a little bit more if you wanted to. So plus or minus square root 7 plus 4 square root of 3. And then the bottom one, can I reduce that? No, you can't reduce that anymore. 2 and no, that's it. This will be as reduced as possible. Okay, now we got to deal with that plus or minus. Okay, so let's deal with the plus or minus in a second. Let's just continue on. Let's do the cosine of x over 2. All right, so this is going to be the plus or minus square root. So now it's going to be the 1 plus cosine x over 2. So I'm going to have plus or minus square root of 1 plus the negative. So this is going to be a minus 4 square root of 3 over 7 divided by 2. So if I wanted to reduce this a little bit more, I'll get 7 over 7 minus 4 square root of 3 over 7 over 2, which would then give me plus or minus square root of 7 minus 4 square root of 3 divided by 14. Okay. And now finally, let's take a look at the tangent of x over 2. Alright, so let's take a look at that. So I'm gonna choose, I'm just gonna use this guy, the sine alpha over 1 plus cosine alpha. We're just gonna use that guy. Sine alpha, 1 plus cosine alpha, because I don't have to worry about plus or minus. So sine alpha over 1 plus cosine alpha. Alright, so we know what the sine of x is. So the sine is going to be the opposite over the hypotenuse, which is 1/7. 1 plus cosine of x. All right, so cosine in this case is going to be the negative 4 over square root of 3 over 7. There's going to be 1/7 over 7 over 7 minus 4 square root of 3 over 7. So you're going to have 1/7 divided by 7 minus 4 square root of 3 over 7. It seems like the 7s will cancel out. 1/7 divided by that and move it. So 7 over 7 minus 4 square root of 3. So the 7s cancel out, and I'm left with 1 over 7 minus 4 square root of 3. Okay, so this is what this guy is. All right, and now the last thing that we want to do is figure out this plus or minus, because we got to figure that thing out. It's not just going to leave as plus or minus. So let's just think about it. Right now, x is in quadrant 2. So we know that x is in quadrant 2, and in quadrant 2, that's between pi over 2 and pi, right? Now, in order for me to find the sign, I need to know where exactly half of that is. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide this by 2. And if I do it to this side, I also got to do it to the other guys. I'm going to divide this guy by 2, and I'm going to divide this guy by 2. So I get that x over 2 is between pi over 4 and pi over 2. So x over 2 is in quadrant 1. And in quadrant 1, all of them are positive, which means that all of these guys are also going to be positive. So this is a positive, and this one's also a positive. Okay, so that's how you would go ahead and figure out those sign changes, and also how you would find out the angle itself.